You're listening to the Journey podcast. Have you ever wondered if mediumship could be a pathway to healing? Listen to today's episode to find out more. Hi, I'm Petra Brunbauer, and with decades of experience with sadness, pain, anxiety, and stress, I finally figured out how to leave all that behind. And this podcast shows you how to break free permanently so you can reclaim your sanity and find the self-esteem and energy to go after the life you desire. With real talk about mental health, holistic healing, and the tough journey of coming out the other end. This is the Journey Podcast. Welcome to today's episode. In this episode, we delve into the fascinating realm of mediumship, embarking on a journey to understand how connecting with a medium can offer us profound healing and a sense of peace. Through our exploration, we uncover the ways in which mediumship can serve as a conduit for healing messages, closure, and reassurance from our loved ones who have crossed over. As we navigate the world of mediumship, we discover how the experience can bring solace and comfort, allowing us to find closure, connect with our departed loved ones, and gain a renewed sense of purpose and understanding. Since the discovery of her abilities, Karen Docherty has worked tirelessly to bring the word of spirit to those who need it most. From the UK to the USA, from Asia to Australia, clients from all over the world meet with Karen to receive readings, enroll in mentorships, and share a space for discussions on the power of spirit. A woman with spirit and a breath of fresh air, Karen offers a contemporary approach to psychic work and mediumship based on traditional principles. Filled with love and compassion, she stands as one of the most reputable and skilled mediums in modern times. Karen offers one-to-one sessions as well as mentorship. She also gives public demonstrations of mediumship. Here is my interview with Karen Docherty. Hi, Karen. It's so great to have you on the podcast today. I've been looking forward to getting to chat with you because the healing power of mediumship is such an interesting topic for holistic healing. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here. I've been looking forward to it also.
Yes, me too. I've been excited all summer to speak with you. I'm so glad you could make it today. Do you want to share a little bit about yourself and your story and how you came to do what you do today?
Yeah, of course. You know, whenever you get asked this question, somehow in your mind you start to go to, right, where did it all start? Because it really is such a natural part of me. But when I look back in my lifetime, I didn't really start to develop this ability until later, maybe in my late teens, early 20s. Before that, I was very aware of spirit. I grew up being aware of spirit, but not really knowing what the difference was. So maybe I would see someone and know really they weren't physical, but in my mind, I couldn't really work out why. So a lot of my earlier childhood was like that, where it was maybe telling my grandmother, for instance, you know, there's a lady in the other room, and she would just say, don't worry about it, won't harm you. She kind of knew what things were all about. She was quite mediumistic. I learned that later in life. But as this progressed, as I went through my life, I did spend a lot of my life being quite lonely in some way, knowing that I had friends around me and I definitely had a very supportive family, but I just felt different and I couldn't work out why. And then as I got into my early 20s, it kind of started to become more and more apparent that I needed to look more into the mediumistic side of things. I had always read mediumship books. I had always followed mediums, for instance, you know, watching them on TV and things, but not really realizing that I could do it. It was more, yeah, I love that. You know, I'm very interested in it and I'm passionate about it, but actually not realizing that I could do it. Once I realized that I could actually do this and that readings were coming to me and things were coming to me from those who'd crossed over, I just started my development and it just went on from there, basically, just really living it every single day and actually finally feeling like I'm home. I know who I am. I know that this is my purpose. And really, it's just gone from strength to strength.
Wow, what a journey. I am fascinated by this topic. And I'm also very glad that you had support and people like your grandmother who were able to guide you a little bit through the beginnings of when you started to feel different and didn't know what was happening. So that sounds like that would have been very helpful as well. Now, for people who might not know what mediumship is or what a medium does, do you want to talk a little bit about how this works in daily life? What do you do? What kind of things do you see? And how do you work with this sort of in your readings and on a daily basis?
Yeah, it's a wide subject. I think when people hear about mediums and mediumship, they really automatically think it's only about communicating with those on the other side for other people, which of course is a large part of my work. And, that's what I do on a day-to-day basis. But coming from a personal perception of it, a personal point of view, I am the same as everyone else. And we all have that spirit part of us. We all come from the spirit side of life. We come here into the human existence, and then we go home to spirit again when this human part is done. And so we all have that spiritual aspect to us. Some of us know about it. Some of us don't know about it. Some of us feel it might be a little bit of intuition, but we don't really examine it to see where it's from. But every single one of us has a power within us that we can call upon at any point in time. So for me, aside of doing readings and sessions for people, it's also about educating them on where their spirit loved ones are and letting their loved ones communicate through me and through my mediumship, but also empowering people through healing. And that is, like we said, the healing power of mediumship. Mediumship is there to provide healing in whatever capacity that is needed. So whether that's through grief of losing someone and you need that evidence, or whether that's through something a person's going through in their own life, their own spirit journey, and helping them with that to empower and let them understand, it's all mediumship. And so that is really what I'm here to do, is help people heal. And that is through teaching them about their own intuition, teaching them where they can call upon themselves, their higher self, to help them through life and to see their own goals and achievements and, what's coming up, but also then providing evidence that there is something else.
It sounds like a very powerful way to bring healing and have people channel their own healing power that's within themselves. So, like I said, I am very fascinated by this topic. And so, when you say that you communicate, for example, with loved ones on the other side, so how do you know when there is someone that needs talking to or needs speaking out for? Do clients usually contact you and then this connection happens? Or do clients sometimes even get signs and then come to you and say, oh, I felt this or that? Or do you get signs as well? How does that connection work?
Really, the connection for other people is two ways, just like you explained. So one of the ways is that they will reach out to me because they feel a need, or maybe they have felt some shift or felt something themselves from spirit. So maybe they feel like they've had a dream of their mother in the spirit side, or maybe it's just coming from a place of complete grief that they need to contact their loved ones. So they will reach out to me in that aspect. And the other way, of course, for me is I don't really contact someone without them contacting me first, even though I may be aware of spirit. So a spirit person won't come into contact with me for their loved one unless they know that I have a way to contact their loved one. So it would really have to come from the client's perspective. But that doesn't mean I'm not aware of spirit. And even the minute someone reaches out to me, sometimes, someone will send me an email and straight away I know, oh, their mother's in the spirit side and I can feel her coming in. Because as soon as that link's made, then that connection has happened. And the spirit people are normally behind it. They're normally the ones prompting that meeting to take place.
Yeah. And as you said, that can bring a lot of healing. Does that healing happen mostly on, I guess, earth side, you could call it? Does that healing mostly happen for clients? Or is there also healing that takes part for the loved ones that have passed over? Is there a need for that on the other side as well? I'm very curious because I actually don't know how that works.
There absolutely is a need for healing on both sides. And the reason for that is when someone passes away, we obviously, the ones that are left behind, experience that grief because we feel we will never see that person again. Like that's been an ending. And whether it's sudden or not, it still feels like it is very sudden, and we are still shocked about the person no longer being here. So we will miss them on a physical level every single day. Now, the people that cross over, the people in the spirit side, they also feel that miss of the physical life. So they know where they are, and they know that they live on, and they know that they are just in a different vibrational frequency then at that point, and they can see us, but they still miss the hug. They still miss having, a cup of coffee. They still miss telling you about their day. They may miss their children. There's so much about the physical existence here that they also miss. So there is grief on both sides. It's a different kind of grief. The people here will experience complete grief because we don't know. Some people might not believe in the spirit side, so they just think that they're never going to see their loved one again. The grief on the other side is still there and present, but I don't want to say less, because it's not less, it's just different. It's just that they know, okay, we will be together and I can be with you at any point in time, but you can't see me at times, and that causes their grief. And if you can imagine a parent crossing over and looking back and seeing their children, no matter how old they are, upset, it's a natural thing for a parent to want to comfort their children. So that's hard, when someone crosses over. So there needs to be healing on both sides. Another aspect to that as well really is sometimes people pass over and there's maybe been a disagreement, or something unfinished, or words that weren't said, or the wrong words that were said. And then this happens and people really struggle with that they didn't get to maybe lay things to rest. So sometimes you can feel that there's healing needed in those times too.
Yeah. And sometimes death can also be very sudden, and there's no time to prepare when someone passes on, if it was an accident or something very unexpected. And there may be a lot of things, like you said, that weren't said, and both sides might need that closure to find healing. Now, do you find that with your clients, when you have made this connection and there are messages maybe that are passed back and forth, or the client can connect through you with their loved ones, do you find that things change for them after they have worked with you in their lives? Does physically, mentally, emotionally, do things actually change for the positive for them?
Absolutely. And that can take time. Sometimes you'll see a client leaving my office already feeling the difference. They're so relieved. They know where their loved one is. Just takes a weight off their shoulders. Other times it can take longer. Other times people will come back for repeat sessions and need to talk about more, or need that connection again. And eventually it helps them. But definitely I would say on the emotional level, more than anything else, that's what is healed first, because that emotion is part of the soul. Because anything emotional is part of the soul. It's not logical. It's not something you think about. It's something that you feel. So when that needs to be healed, that's the first thing that usually gets healed.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, because even talking to or feeling like you have a connection can be very healing and resolve things that maybe people have carried around with themselves for a very long time, sometimes years after someone has passed away. So to feel that relief when they can let go of that must be absolutely incredible for their healing journey.
Absolutely.
Now, when they come to you and you connect with their loved ones, is this something, because you said everybody has spirit and intuition inside them, so can we all learn to make these connections? Can we all learn to communicate in some kind of way? Or is this reserved for people like yourself who are mediums, who can connect to the other side? Or do we all have some intuition and something that can guide us on that?
We all have intuition. We all have a connection to the other side. Because we are spirit in human form, we all have a way of making that connection to our spirit first and foremost, which again, some people will call their intuition, sixth sense, just getting a hunch on something. That is your spirit. That's the spirit part of you. So we can all go there and make that connection through meditation or just through speaking to ourselves. In turn, then, if you think about it like that, if we ask our loved ones to step forward, we might feel them sometimes. It will be very subtle. It won't be big and bold like everyone seems to think it needs to be. It's subtle things like maybe smelling a perfume, or maybe hearing a song when you were thinking of that person that reminded you of them, or maybe just feeling the presence of someone, or having a dream. All of these things are very subtle, but they are real. These communications are real. Mediums are born to be mediums. So mediums are definitely coming here for that purpose. There's a difference between mediumship and psychic. Psychic is where, like, if I was working psychically with you, I would be connecting with your soul and seeing what was in life for you, the past, the present, and the potential of things to come. It would be everything pertaining to you. That's a very earthly thing. So that is where psychic comes in. Now, we all have that, because we come here from spirit. So we all have that psychic intuition that we can use. So people here who aren't mediums can maybe enhance their own psychic skills by things like knowing that the telephone was going to ring, or knowing that they were going to bump into someone. They were just thinking of them, and then they turn the corner and that person's there. All of these things are a way of kind of brushing up on our psychic ability, if you like. But mediumship is purely, I feel anyway, mediums are born to be mediums and born to be here. Much like an artist may be born to be an artist, or a singer is born to be a singer. You know, everyone has different abilities.
Yeah. And do you do certain things to, I don't know, I guess mediums don't really go to school. There's no classes or courses for being a medium. So do you do certain things to harness that mediumship, the powers that you utilize and the intuition and the abilities that you use? Do you work on that during the day, or is that just something that innately happens for you?
Well, in the early days, when I first realized that I could, receive messages from spirit and communication, I did seek out teachers. I did read things. I did attend a home circle, what we called a home circle, which was like a development group where we would sit, maybe 6 or 7 people would sit exactly at the same time every week and kind of practice on one another for readings and such like. And that was a good way to start off my development, really. But aside of that, it's been more about practice. It's been more about just having that trust and faith in what I do and what I receive, and that connection to spirit, knowing undoubtedly that it's there and that I can feel spirit so easily when they come around me. Now, that doesn't mean that every reading I do is an easy thing to do, because every connection is different. I might have one connection that's absolutely fantastic and it's strong and the communication's clear. And then there might be another session that I do that is a bit more difficult, or it just doesn't seem the same. And that is the nature of mediumship, because you also have to remember that the people on the other side are also learning how to communicate through my mediumship. So it can take time to make that blend, get it right for that to happen. But, 99% of the time, the communication happens and it comes through just fine. Me, for myself and my learning, it really is just about keeping reading things, looking at things, looking at how I'm working, and speaking to my guides. I speak to my guides every single day. Like, how am I going to work today? What I was feeling. I was feeling like I could work like X, Y, and Z today. Let's give it a go. And that development then takes place between me and my spirit team. They will help me to develop my mediumship in that essence. But I do actually offer a mentorship for mediumship, because I didn't feel I had anyone really, not one person that was the same person all the time to kind of ask advice and get them to show me things. And so I really created that for that reason.
Yeah, that is amazing, because there's not really, like I said, a degree or anything that you can study for in this. So you're kind of left to your own devices to figure this out. So amazing work that you're doing. And as you're talking about communicating with the other side, I'm kind of wondering, how do our loved ones communicate? I mean, in the movies, we often see mediums speaking in strange voices and languages, and all sorts of weird things start to happen. But how does communication actually take place when you're receiving these connections?
It feels like a thought initially. So when spirits step forward to communicate with me, you're always aware of maybe hearing something in your mind. It's almost like that thought process. But because I know when I feel spirit coming forward, I feel their energy and I know who's stepped in beside me. And then when they're actually doing the communication part, it will always come through the mind of the medium, because that is the part that is used. And so in my mind, I then have to interpret that information and then say it to the person in front of me and make sense of it in that respect as well. On the other side, so for instance, I remember speaking to a lady, I had her mother, and her mother came in quite strongly and she'd given me all this evidence, and the woman was very happy with it. And then all of a sudden, I heard the mother speaking Italian. And I said to the client, your mother was Italian. She's shown me that she speaks Italian. And she said, yes, she didn't speak one word of English. And it was Italian that she spoke. And the client was absolutely amazed at how that came through. But for me, it was clear, my thought process is the same as someone else's, regardless of the language that they spoke. So the lady was still able to get all of the information to me through my own mind. And the only difference was she wanted me to know she was Italian as evidence for her daughter. So she then brought the Italian language into it. So you can, as a medium, pick up different languages, different ways that people have. Usually, the medium won't talk in that language or, talk in different voices and things. But there is a thing called trance mediumship, which is more in depth. It's going into a deeper altered state to channel spirit coming forward. And yes, that is when a medium can speak a different language, speak in a different voice. But that is a wholly different thing. And it's definitely something that's not for the public domain all the time. It's a more specialized kind of mediumship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow, that is fascinating. And I'm sure that you have come in contact with your share of skeptics also, who may have come to see you or may have not come to see you and been very skeptical. So how do we know that the messages that are coming through are in fact from our loved ones? And you talked about evidence. Is there evidence or proof where skeptics could actually say, wow, no one else knew that, or this is something that we didn't talk about? So is there things like that come through as well for people who might be a little skeptical about this process?
Absolutely. I think that the biggest thing is to realise that, of course, there are people that don't know what to believe or are sceptical. And sometimes it's through fear. It's not someone being particularly bad about what you do. It's just that maybe they've never experienced something, or maybe they're fearful of it. So I'm always aware of that. And I would say that mainly every event that I do, there are skeptics there. There's someone in the audience that's skeptical. And the biggest thing that I've noticed that happens with someone who's skeptical is that they will get a piece of evidence that they know couldn't have been found out any other way. So it's something very personal and not general. I think that skeptics sometimes have this way about them of expecting things to be general with mediumship because they don't know what to believe, or they've maybe heard things that aren't good about mediumship. So they go with this mind of, oh, it's just going to be general, but stuff that everyone in the room can take. But a good medium will definitely be sharing things that not everyone in the room can take, very personal things that only that person knows. And when I have actually worked with skeptics before, I had one thing that jumps out in my mind all the time. I had a couple that came to see me, and it was definitely the lady's idea, and I could tell the gentleman did not want to be there. And right away, his father came in, and I knew it was going to happen because I could feel that he was skeptical. So initially he was like, okay. And then his dad gave me his name. So I kind of seen him opening up a little bit at that point. And then other stuff that came out. But there was 2 pieces of evidence that the father gave me, and the gentleman could not take them. Absolutely not. And they were quite obscure pieces of evidence. And one was about his mother lighting a candle in a church in Italy for the father. And the other one was having like a statue of a steering wheel of a ship. And the man that I was speaking to said, absolutely not. My mother's never been to Italy. That didn't happen. And definitely he wasn't in the Navy. There was no way he had anything to do with that. So I said, okay. And all you can do as a medium at that point is say, well, that's what I feel that I'm receiving. But if I'm wrong, that's okay. But just so you know, maybe you can go and ask. And he phoned me about a week later and he said that he had gone home and asked his mum. And she said, absolutely, it was true. She said that she'd gone on a cruise after the father had died with her friend. And it stopped off in Italy, and he didn't know that. And she did light a candle. And the steering wheel, she went and got it from the attic and brought it down and said, well, this was something your father gave me 20 years ago, and it was a gift from somewhere. So then the skeptical man, he was phoning me every week for about 4 weeks and saying, I just don't know how you got that. I need to know how you got that. And he was really very taken aback with it, but it really did help him. And he thanked me at the end of it and said, well, what it's done is it's opened my mind. And that's all you can do with skeptical clients, because you are not there to persuade someone. I can't persuade someone to believe in this. This is something that I share. It's my work. It's my life. And, whatever someone makes of that then is up to them. But what I hope happens is that at least it opens their mind to look into it.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that story. And what an experience that must have been for him to receive this evidence and to speak to his mother about that. And yeah, it does, I think, open up at least the possibility there may be loved ones that have crossover that can communicate, or that there may be something on a different frequency that we may just not be able to see right away. So even, like you said, opening up those possibilities could help someone heal or have a different perspective on their life or on the people they love. So yeah. Oh, what a great experience. Thank you for sharing that. Mm-hmm. Now, would you like to go over some of the programs and services that you offer, so that if listeners have aligned with this episode and they'd like to work with you or they'd like to connect with you, maybe we can let them know a little bit about how you work with your clients?
Yeah, of course. So obviously I offer one-to-one sessions. They're normally done on Zoom or video or telephone. Really, I think people need to know that I can connect with their loved ones wherever they are. So if they're on the other side of the world, I do that all the time with international clients. It doesn't really matter where the person is. I can still communicate with their loved ones. So one-to-one sessions are a good way if someone is looking for help with grief or needs evidence that their loved one is there. Also psychically as well, if they need a psychic reading, I offer that as well through the same medium as well. The other thing I do offer that I'm very passionate about is teaching, educating. It's about helping with development, and I offer a mentorship for that reason. In the main, only because, like I said, I struggled in the beginning to understand things. I didn't know where to go, where to look. And so it's been very important for me to be able to offer that to people who may feel that they're mediumistic, or even for people who might just have an interest in it or think, well, am I? Or, well, I don't know. And because all of these questions are very prevalent in the beginning, and there's no one out there that will be asking themselves that, isn't supposed to ask themselves that. So I offer a mentorship, and that is one-to-one with me. That is not with other teachers. That is purely for me getting to know the person and seeing what is unique about their mediumship and offering them some sort of help and understanding and sharing my work to help their own development as well. So that's an excellent thing. So we have a beginner and an intermediate one, and I have a more advanced level one as well. So it's really open to anyone, and anyone can apply for that through my website.
Amazing. And we will be linking to all of Karen's offerings in the show notes as well. So be sure to check there on how you can connect with her if you'd like to have a reading done, or if you would like to work with her one-on-one, or if you think that you have abilities, mediumistic abilities, and you'd like to talk with her about how she can mentor or guide you on that. Well, this has been another incredible episode, and I really hope our listeners have enjoyed this journey into the healing power of mediumship as much as I have. It has been such a pleasure having you on the podcast today, Karen, and thank you so much for sharing this really deep wisdom you have in this field and on this topic with our listeners. I truly appreciate you being here today.
You're so welcome. Thank you for inviting me, and I hope to be back at some point too.
Yes, absolutely. I look forward to doing this again, and I'm sure that there will be many more things that we can talk about around mediumship. So I truly look forward to that. Thank you so much, Karen, and take care.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen in. If you enjoy the Journey podcast, please support us by subscribing, sharing on social media, and leaving us a review. We appreciate you. And you can find more of The Journey on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and our website, thejourney.com. Sending you love and courage, and see you next time.